Welcome to the world according to Money Type. That's right. We're going to be discussing part 2. I'm going to post part 1 over the weekend. But part 2 of I Want to Dance with Somebody, a movie about the life of Whitney Houston. Now, as we can see from part 1, which is my full review of the movie, we can see it was a horrible movie. Terrible. Now, tonight we're going to discuss big parts and big people that were missing from the storyline. First up, we have Aunt Bey. Aunt Bey was like your favorite around-the-way aunt. She's not really your aunt, but she's close to your parents. So, the children start calling you Auntie. Well, that's who Aunt Bey was. Her real name was Ellen White. A family friend that basically helped raise Whitney and her brothers. Then later, Aunt Bey, she became an employee of Whitney's. And allegedly, she helped take care of Bobby Christina. Now, the downside to Bey run her mouth too much. Bey out here, now Bey couldn't have had no man. Bey ain't got no man, but Bey gonna tell you how to catch a man. Obviously, Bey don't know what she talking about, because Bey ain't got no man. Anybody that knows it, she ain't got nothing else to do with her life. Bey was always in somebody's business, and Bey was always talking. All right? Now, why is Aunt Bey missing? She's a very intricate piece to the life of Whitney Houston. But they just wiped Aunt Bey right on up out of there. All right, Bey, get up on my screen, Bey. Now on to the next. Sylvia Bahar. Sylvia was she ended up being a personal assistant of Whitney's. She first started out, I believe, in housekeeping for Whitney. And this is before Whitney purchased a big, over 12,000 square foot mansion in Mendham, New Jersey. So Sylvia saw a lot of things firsthand. And she was around a whole lot of stuff. Almost just as long as Robin. But Sylvia was there in the mix before the mansions came. Before they came. So why is Sylvia not there? All right, next we have Ellen LeVar. This is Whitney's hairstylist when Whitney was at her peak during the height of her career. She was even with Whitney during the Bodyguard years. If I'm not mistaken, Ellen was in a scene in the Bodyguard, doing Whitney hair. But yeah, Ellen LeVar, there's no sign of Ellen LeVar. Nowhere. Another missing piece that should have been there. But then again, when you got who you got at the helm, it turns out like it did. Turns out like trash. Another piece they left out is her first serious adult boyfriend, and that is Brad Johnson. I think he owns restaurants or whatever now. But it would be nice to kind of see that dynamic, at least for a few minutes in the film. But it wasn't. Next. Okay, as you can see, this is Arsenio Hall, Whitney Houston, Eddie Murphy. Okay, they didn't even bring them up. And that was huge for a little minute. You have Arsenio. He was the friend of Eddie, who was kind of like Whitney's boyfriend or whatever. One say he was, and then Eddie said it wasn't. But with Arsenio, the first time we see inside of Whitney's Mendham, New Jersey mansion is on the Arsenio Hall show. None of that is explored at all. Eddie Murphy, the kind of yes and no boyfriend, whatever they got going on. He kind of treated her bad. Not kind of. He said a lot of slick stuff. And then she turned around and listened to Aunt Bay concerning Eddie. It just made a whole fool of herself. I ain't gonna go into it, but I'm gonna just say this here. If Bay give you romantic advice, relationship advice, do not take it. Aunt Bay don't know what she's talking about. All right, Eddie, Arsenio, get up out of here. Next we have Keenen Ivory Wayans. He was key because he publicly made fun of her dancing skills. And you know, they try to say black people can dance, this and that. And then she was already dealing with the criticism of the music itself was so white. And that caused a little problem, a little rift right there, too. With the Keenen Ivory Wayans coming at her and then used his sister to play the part of the non-dancing Whitney Houston. Okay, next up, we have the infamous, mysterious Nick Gordon. Nick Gordon is the boy that Whitney allowed to come and move into her home. After Whitney's death, he starts dating Whitney's daughter. Well, mysteriously, he was present when Whitney died and when Bobby Christina was found unconscious. And then he mysteriously died along with a few others that knew the truth. Nick Gordon, he wasn't even mentioned. There's no inclination that he even exists. None whatsoever. But when you're doing a money grab, you leave a whole bunch of pieces out because you got to hurry up and make this movie so you can get paid. Okay, next up we have Kim, built like a barrel, Burrell, and Tiffany the hairstylist. Pat is also guilty of this type of stuff too, but I didn't even put her picture up or anything because I'm sick of looking at her. All right? But Kim, Pat, Tiffany, mysteriously, all of these people did not answer the phone when Whitney was calling them on the day that Whitney died. That's strange. Were they under some type of direct order to not answer the phone? It's quite strange that somebody like Whitney Houston can't get a person to pick up the phone. But they conveniently left that out of the movie. They left that out of the movie, that nobody answered the phone for her. That makes it even, her death, even more suspicious. Were they under direct order to not answer the phone? Do not answer the phone for her today. Now, I'm pretty sure they probably didn't tell them, don't answer the phone, because we about to get her up off the earth. We about to exterminate her. I'm sure they didn't tell them that. But it's kind of strange. Ain't none of them answer the phone. Yep. But I'm move on. We moving on. Now here we have the assistant to Whitney on the day that she died. There is like zero mention of this. This person name is Mary Jones, a.k.a. Cupcakes Mary. That's right, Cupcakes Mary. Cupcakes Mary ain't nothing but a line wonder. She was a assistant. She was brought in by Pat Bootsy Houston. That's right. We call her Bootsy because everywhere she go, she wear them stupid looking boots. Okay? And I also believe that is Pat's cousin or aunt or something. I believe it was cousin. Cupcakes Mary took her big behind out there to go and get some cupcakes on the day of, like, a huge event for Whitney Houston. It's odd to me that you leave a whole star in their room unattended. Ain't nobody with them. Ain't no hair and makeup person in there. No stylist person. None of that. She just up in there by herself. And you out here in the street going to get her some cupcakes. What kind of crap? And then when she came back to her dead Whitney Houston. Then she claimed she pulled Whitney out the tub. But Nick said he pulled out the tub. And then the bodyguard, Ray, who is also Pat's brother with no real bodyguard experience, Ray said he pulled out the tub. They all claim they pulled Whitney out the tub. The film does not clarify any of this. The film the movie, it doesn't clarify any of that. It don't explore any of it. Another missing piece. All right, next up, we have BeBe and CeCe Winans. Whitney Houston loved them. She even, during the height of her career, went and sang background for them. Okay, problem I got with this here, the Winans always trying to say Whitney and CeCe sound alike. Then you don't even see them in the movie. And she was riding with them heavy for a good little minute. She was riding with the Winans family. She was riding with the Winans family very heavy. And you don't even see them mentioned in here. Even Marvin, I believe he did the officiating for Whitney and Bobby's wedding. We don't even see these people. More parts that these people are leaving out. Okay, on to Whitney's first cousin, Sissy's niece, Dionne Warwick. The most you saw about Dionne was like these random pictures that would be in the background. That's the most. Other than that, you don't hear or see anything about Dionne really. Dionne was the predecessor to Whitney. And when I say the predecessor, when you're talking about crossing over from just this chitlin circuit and R&B groups and what they would call like soul music back then or whatever, she was singing Bacharach and Hal David music. She was Whitney Houston pre-Whitney Houston. She really opened the door. And this is pre-Diana Ross. This is pre-Diana Ross. That Dionne Warwick is our crossover queen, man. She's just... And she didn't even get a mention in the movie. I know Pat probably still mad at her because she called her a liar for saying Dee Dee Warwick molested Whitney. Look, Pat wasn't even around during that time. How can she put out allegations like that? This is crazy, man. Crazy. But there was no mention of Dionne, and that's another great missing link. Because you got to remember, I'm sure Dionne did a lot when it came to hipping Whitney to just what to expect from a Clive Davis. Because Dionne is on Arista at this time. She signed there before Whitney gets there. So, another piece that's missing. All right, up next we have Wendy Williams and Diane Sawyer. Neither one of their memorable Whitney Houston interviews were even mentioned. They weren't highlighted, no nothing. Just crazy. When you get the Diane Sawyer interview, you see when Whitney coins the phrase, crack is whack, requesting to see receipts from buying drugs. You don't see any of that interview. And also in that same interview, some people probably didn't pay attention to it, but during that interview, she exposed Clive Davis as a Singali, or we would call it, I guess, a puppet master. Sure, that had a lot to do with her exit too, if you know what I mean. But neither one of those interviews were even mentioned. On to the next. All right, on to Alan Jacobs. Alan Jacobs was a bodyguard for Whitney Houston. I believe he wrote a letter to explain the dangers of her drug abuse. I believe at the time she had OD'd on the Waiting to Exhale set, or I think while they were shooting. She might have been in the rental house that they had, but while they were shooting, she OD'd, and that's all bad. That is all bad. But they left Alan Jacobs out of the picture. And also, with Alan Jacobs, he was the one that hipped us to the fact that Whitney was, under his watch, was not allowed to take showers longer than 10 minutes. Because they knew she had a problem in what happened on February 11, 2012. They feared that would happen, so that's why that guideline was in place. But then you got, you go and get somebody from Burger King to be your bodyguard, Pat brother. You go and get them. They don't understand protocol. They don't understand security breaches. They don't know nothing. So, Alan Jacobs was another piece that was left out that needed to be there. All right, next up we have Kevin Skinner and Kevin Ammons. Okay, and you say, well, where's Kevin Ammons? He wrote that book that you said there named Good Girl, Bad Girl. Let's go to Kevin Skinner first. Kevin Skinner was an ex-dope dealer that worked for John Huston Entertainment. It's also been said that he was behind pushing Whitney's dad to sue Whitney for the $100 million. I believe Kevin Skinner's passed away now. But Kevin Skinner's character wasn't even mentioned. Was not even mentioned whatsoever. But he was an intricate piece. And then you have Kevin Ammons. Of course, he wrote that tell-all, Good Girl, Bad Girl. And some speculate that he wanted a record deal. And when that didn't happen, he decided to tell everything that he knew. And that's the story on Skinner and Ammons. Don't know where Kevin Ammons is now, but Skinner is dead. All right, on to the next. All right, next up we have the HBO executives. They were not even mentioned. Back in the day, Whitney had 3 HBO specials. They didn't even mention they existed. But it would be good to let the people know how they came about. And then why would the specials end? Like all of a sudden, just the ties with HBO was severed. Why? How? What happened? But they didn't do any of that. All right, this is the last, but certainly not least. Whitney's nieces and nephews were cut out of the movie, period. There was no dialogue. There was nothing about them. We never see nothing. Like they didn't even exist. And if you follow Whitney for over a great length of time, you would see that she is close to her nieces and nephews. Almost basically like her own kids. But there was no mention of them. And it's just sad to see all these missing pieces that would have really took the movie to another level. They refused to even explore them or even bring them to the scene. Like her cousin Felicia. Especially with her choir singing days, when Whitney was singing church choir. Her and another dude, I think his first name was Larry. I mean, all of that. Like, they was all like bosom buddies. You know what I'm saying? But nothing. Nothing, not even a mention. It's crazy. Well, that's it for the world according to Money Tot. Peace.